All right, folks, welcome. So good to see everybody. Chris Garlock, Michael Redmond with you for the Pandanet-AGA City League Finals. We are very excited. It's been a big week here at the US Go Congress. To help us get tonight's festivities started off, we've asked Uber producer Stephen Hu to join us to give us some background as we set up for the evening. So we have a couple of things. We have some logistics we're going to go over, so you know what's going to be happening, and then we also want to tell you about the players, the teams. Let's just, Stephen, review very quickly what exactly the Pandanet-AGA City League is. We have how many teams?
We have, I believe we have 4 leagues, and I think I can pull up this information very quickly.
Sorry,
I believe
I didn't warn you on that one.
yeah. No, I think for the A League we have 8 teams, and that's going to be the top league, right? So this is where all the top amateur and professional players in North America come together and play. And so the Pandanet City League, as we know, is the most prestigious online event that we have every year. It's going to be a year-long format, and we've already had 7 rounds of the regular season being played, and after that, we have the first 2 places competing for a $5,000 top prize. So this is going to be very exciting. Last year, I know that we had 3 separate games on 3 different nights, but this year we have them all on Friday. So actually, we get to find out who wins this title tonight.
So very exciting. Pretty exciting night, and exciting for us too, because it poses some interesting production challenges, but not to worry. We have the legendary Eva-Dee Beech is working on the whole project for us. We've got Stephen with us. So we are going to attempt to somehow bring you all 3 games. We're not quite sure how that's going to work, but Stephen has assured me that we can do this. So, but let's just run down who will be at board 1, 2, and 3. So let's start from board 3. Who's on board 3?
On board 3, I believe we have Stephanie in, one professional. Stephanie, as you know, was our commentator last night, and she runs the New York Institute of Go. It's moved to Manhattan now, by the way. That's very exciting. Her opponent will be Brady Zhang, a 7-dan amateur from Canada. He's one of the top amateur players in Canada. I believe that he's represented the country in many international events, such as the WGC and the KPMC. That is the Korean Prime Minister's Cup. So it should be a very good matchup. I believe that last time they met, Stephanie actually won, but you never know. It's going to be all to be played once again.
So Stephanie, of course, representing New York City, and Brady from the Canwa Vancouver 1. And just run down, as I understand it, you said Canwa is the sponsor, and then Vancouver, obviously the city team, right?
I believe so, and I think it's actually interesting because Ryan used to play for the Canwa Vancouver team, so
right.
He's actually really facing against his former home crew.
One big happy Go family is what it is. Got it. All right. Board 2. Who do we got at board 2?
Board 2 have Hanchen Zhang, 1-dan professional from China. I believe that he's playing for the New York City team, and he's up against Bill Lin, 7-dan. Bill, some of you might be very familiar with because he has been one of the top North American amateurs ever since the very beginning. And this is way before I hopped on the scene. He was in the first pro qualifier, as we know. So Bill has been around. He's one of the best players in Canada, and looks like he's gonna face off Hanchen in another rematch. The last time they played, Hanchen won that game, and as you know, Hanchen is one of the very strong and consistent City League players. He almost never drops a game, but who knows? It can. It might not happen again tonight, or it could be reversed.
And I'm going to want to talk about that, but let's go to board 1. Who is on board 1?
And that's going to be our star-studded matchup of the evening. It's pro versus pro. Ryan Lee, a 3-dan professional from the NAGF. As we know, we've seen him a couple of times this week.
The NAGF is the North American Go
Federation.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. And he certainly he represents one of the, well, probably one of the best players on this continent. He obviously, as we know, is famous for that victory over Chen Yaoyan 9-down professional a couple of years back, and that's still probably the best achievement we've had coming from a North American player in national tournaments.
Right,
he is very strong.
He's very, very strong. He's also, and this is true a lot of these players. Really, not just a nice guy, but a really modest guy. I remember covering him, during several tournaments, and just really modest, very self-effacing, but sharp, sharp, sharp. I can't wait to see this game. It should be very interesting. What can you tell us about Henry Yu?
Henry is a 2-down professional from Taiwan, I believe. I haven't met him in person, so I wish I had more to say about him, but he's certainly been very dedicated to the City League. I only caught a glimpse of him when I was compiling the interviews, but he said in the interview that he'd been preparing the game for a month. And imagine having nothing else to do other than preparing for this game. And certainly he's done well. The last time Ryan and Henry played each other during the regular season, and this was round 2, Henry actually won that game, which is interesting. So, this year we don't really have much of a one-sided matchup. I think it's going to be very close. It's going to come right down to the wire. Having said that, Ryan, as we've mentioned just now, is in very good form. He is a part of the Transatlantic Pro League, which is a round-robin tournament they have over there in Europe. And Ryan and Calvin Sun, of course, are the 2 North American players attending that. But Ryan has won 8 games out of 8. He has not dropped a single game. He's in red-hot form, and even in the casual games we played on Wednesday night on this channel, he I don't know, it's just impossible to beat him somehow. I a couple of times I thought he was going to go down, but somehow he just kills other people's dragons. So I don't know what's going on there, but it looks like we have a very tasty game for our viewers tonight.
Well, and I was thinking when we talked about this a few weeks ago, I think a lot of folks are thinking, New York is just such a strong team. Is this potentially a 3-game sweep? And from what you're saying, I don't think people can really count out the Vancouver team, right?
Yeah, and actually, well, I suppose some people are even rooting for the Vancouver team to break the monopoly. But yeah, the New York team has been very strong in the last few years. I can't remember anything from my recent memory in which they're challenged severely by the opposition. Certainly last year they swept to a 3-0 victory over San Francisco, I believe. That's the broadcast we did last year. And of course, when we did this on Friday night, where they found out that New York City had won like 2-0, so it didn't matter at the time. But this evening is actually going to matter. So there will be a lot more suspense. So I promise you that if you stick around with us on this channel, you'll get to find out a lot of exciting moves and hopefully some fireworks on the go board.
Thank you, Stephen. All right, you heard it from the man. Going to be some exciting games, no matter how you slice it. A couple of other things. We are going to take a little bit of a break to let the games get some moves down on the board, frankly. But Stephen and the team have put together some very nice content for you to enjoy, which you will be able to enjoy simultaneously. And I'm not generally a big fan of the whole multitasking thing, but in this case, it's a good idea. You'll be able to watch the games and give folks some idea of some of the content that you're going to be throwing up over the next half hour.
Yeah, certainly. It's actually the player interviews were put together in the very last minute, but yeah, I'm glad that we have them.
Stephen,
we'll be showing them in the moment. No, yeah, this year has been a lot of improvising, but we do have interviews from almost all of the players. I believe 5 out of 6. Stephanie is a bit busy this year, so she couldn't quite make it, but we can in fact hear from the other 5 players. And from what I've gathered, it seems to be very high spirits, and everyone's looking forward to the match. And of course, you'll get to hear from themselves in just a few moments.
And then I think you also have a little homework for us.
That's right. The as of now, day 7 of the Leon Chen Simligo Challenge is one of the side events during the Congress. Very popular as well. Has ended. So we'll be showing solutions to puzzles from both day 6 and day 7 tonight during one of the breaks. If we get to it. And so during this break, we'll show you solutions from day 6 of the challenge. In the meantime, I will be posting puzzles to day 8 very soon. That's going to be our final day. And if you check out the puzzles, remember that the final puzzle it'll be something to remember for a lifetime. So I strongly urge you to check out all of the Sumigo prizes we have for you. And of course, during the opening ceremony, I will announce the winners of this contest. But it's been very fun. So
All right,
it'll be something for you to stay entertained during the break.
So when I used to study Sumigo with Jay Lee, when he said things to remember for a lifetime, he was talking about pro level problems that haunted me like a bad nightmare. So I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, thank you, Stephen, for all of that. All right. So, and then just a reminder, folks, of course, we are very much live. So you will be able to ask any questions that you want in the comments. Stephen and Eva-Dee and I will all be monitoring those, and we'll get those to Michael. So we will look forward to interacting with you in that way. So Michael, I'm going to want to check in with you. Obviously, the Olympics just started. I've got a lot of questions about all kinds of things and what's going on there. But and maybe a few questions about the game too.
Oh, yeah, sure. Don't forget to go. Yeah,
I won't forget to go. No. But again, just a reminder, folks, there are 3 games, as Stephen said, going, and we will be bringing you commentary. We're going to focus, obviously, on board 1, but we're going to get board 2 and board 3 in there. So you're getting three games for the price of 1, which I believe is free. So it's a very good deal. All right. With that said, I believe all the games are off and started. So we will take a little break to watch the games along with you, and go ahead and enjoy the games and the content, and we'll see you shortly. Don't go away. Okay, folks, welcome back. Chris Garlock here with Michael Redmond live and in the flesh. I heard somebody do a comment. Is this really Michael Redmond? Yeah, Michael, is this Michael Redmond? Yes.
As far as I know, this is me. Yes.
That's all right. Very good. So we are very excited. We have a very interesting game. I was watching game 1 there. I have a lot of questions. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. So throw them up in the chat. Stephen and Eva-Dee will relay them. But let's just go ahead and jump right into it. That lower right gets interesting fast. So let's take a look at it.
All right. So I think I'll just go to the beginning of the game.
Yep.
Okay. So first of all, this is sort of interesting. The low extension on the left side there. In most professional games, you don't see this anymore because Go AIs, the computer programs that use neural networks, they tend not to like this. So they tend to like black playing, for instance, something like this, or something on the 4th line. Like I've played this move a lot. And so I would say this move, somewhere around there, from early versions of AlphaGo even, you were seeing a tendency to like the 4th line more than the 3rd line when playing a pincer, when playing an extension, that is. And so you see this kind of move. I think in this board position, you might see black jumping into the through 3-point as one of the potential moves. But I'm to be frank, I'm more comfortable with playing something like that. It's just with the low extension played in the game, there is an issue of white jumping in there at some point. So black has to be careful about that. And when black plays high, it's going to be less of an issue. So that's one move that I found interesting. It's not a game-changing move, really. It's gonna depend on what happens later. So white jumps into the 3-point, looking very modern here. And white plays this move. So this is something you see a good deal. Actually, we're going to see a lot of this attachment to the through 3-point in all 3 games, actually, today. Because there were some games where white played this cutting move, which is also it's a test that white can play sometimes here. But in this game, white played the double cutting. So this is something I actually think I know something about because it's a fairly common position. And so I'm pretty confident in saying that black should play from above. In the game, black cut here. And in my research of this position, this is generally getting a fairly bad score compared to black playing from above and here. And if black continues playing locally, it's going to be something like the peep here. which will take away white's eyes with Sensei if white answers it. So if white answers here, then black will always have the option of playing here and this will be a potential attack to kill the white group. So black's not going to do that immediately, but will in the future at some point black might get a stone somewhere around here, for instance, or somewhere around here. Just in later development of the game, black will have potential to go after the white group. So usually you see white push here once to see how black reacts. And if black plays here, now white's going to be 100% alive. So this is how white handles it. And if black pulls back, then this is just going to be a little bit softer when black does get to that cut on the second line. And it means that white can live in the corner. And the cut is, when black does cut there, those two white stones, they have some potential to move out later. So this is what I have seen using programs like Katago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think black might even just leave it after that. So black can play this exchange, or maybe black cannot play this exchange. And this is sort of a question that I have here that it's probably a very subtle difference. So like somewhere on the lower side, I'm not sure where this stone should be, but some kind of an extension on the lower side with ideas to put pressure on white in the corner. And if white answers that like this, it means that the threat here of an invasion is not so important anymore. So black can start playing away. In this game, moves like this would be a good point. Black still could play this move at any time, or black could play something against the upper left corner. And the point is that when white does this, the fact that white has already used one move in the corner, it makes it less of a big deal. So like black can just afford to be trying to connect up somehow on the outside, and it doesn't matter. It's just a territory that wasn't there anyway.
Yeah, and I think, and this is going to come up in a little while when we get to a little bit later into play, but I think that part of what you're talking about is direction of play for black. Mm-hmm. And that one of the things that black needs to be thinking about is those three stones in the upper right corner.
Mm-hmm. Well, that wall there, it can work as a wall and outside influence. In the game variation, we're going to see it turn into somewhat a weak group.
Right.
So that's my advice for black, and I'm pretty sure that this is going to be okay with the AIs also. That's something we might be looking for later.
Okay.
And when black cuts here, I've studied this one also because it's something that people do sometimes, and black should actually play an Atari from this side. If white extends, then black can play here. If white takes the one stone, it's not even a living shape. And black doesn't necessarily have to play this immediately, but this is just really bad for white.
Oh, wow.
If white plays here, then black can choose whether to capture this. Still, it's not going to be 100% alive. So I don't know what white is going to do at this point. White probably has a lot of options. But if white cuts here and then does something like this, you might note that the black group in the corner is 100% alive now.
Mm.
That means that black is never going to add stones to that group and start playing something on the outside. Black can just leave the corner. Oh, what did I do here? White's not going to play that. And black can just leave the corner and it's not in trouble. So we compare that to the game where black played Atari from what I think is the wrong side. Now black is going to need another stone there to live in the corner. And so that's an extra move that it costs black. And I think wow. This is just, it's just going to be good for white.
Mm.
And white moves out. So this is, I get the feeling that it's Ryan who has white. So I get the feeling that he has researched it because it's very smooth play for white. And you can see it working because when black plays here, white pushes through and cuts. And now white has the opportunity to squeeze black somehow. So let's see, how should black, let's just do a variation here. If black extends here, white extends, and the 4 black stones are already dead. And if black jumps here, we have the strategy that you probably can immediately answer.
Oh, is that the sort of a crane's nesty thing?
Very similar, yeah. So it's the wedge here, and white squeezes to capture.
Right.
So there's no escape for those black stones. And black covers here in order to win the race to capture. This is already looking good for white. But white gets fancy here, and it's going to get even better. So the idea with this, white plays a double hane, leaving all these cutting points here. The idea with this move is that if black uses one of those cutting points, it's going to kill the black stones on the top. So for instance, in the game, black cut here, but if black continues by capturing the one stone, white's going to be able to capture these black stones here. So that's variation number one. If black uses the cut underneath, this time white's going to be able to capture these stones like this. So white's going to use that double hane as a way to capture the 4 black stones. And what black did was he played one cut. No, that's not the game. Let's see, where's the game move? Are we at the game move? Okay. So black played one cut. No, black did not do that. I'm in the wrong.
No, there's an Atari. There's an Atari.
Cut here, and then black could not capture there because the 4 stones would be dead. Yeah, I was just sort of lost in my own variation. So so black took the 4 stones, but this is already, it's obviously good for white. So you just compare it with that variation where I had black playing an extension on the lower side. Was it something like, no, it wasn't that one.
Bear with us, folks. We're dealing with some. We're getting there. We're getting there. There we go.
It was this variation where black has controlled the lower side.
Right.
If you compare this with the game variation, it's just pretty obviously the control of the lower side is changed to white. So here we are in the game, and white has so much control over the lower side. This is just good for white. At this point, it's just 13 points in the lower right corner. Black only has 13 points. It's a tiny territory, and we're comparing that to a big side that white has. White could even just play here and it would already be good. But white continues with this move, which is a bit adventurous, but it seems to be like it leaves some weakness. If black jumps out here at some point, it's going to be a really weak shape. Like black could play stuff like this and then squeeze on the outside with this. So black has these opportunities which make it sort of troublesome. But for the time being, if black does something like that, white's probably just going to consolidate the right, and it's probably going to be okay. So it was a very flexible way white played, where white was already going to be okay if white had just closed up the center. This is already looking good for white. Very flexible, and black goes after the 4 stones. So like some players would say, look at all this black territory, and they'd be really happy to take it or something like that. But it's only about, it's something close to 30 points. Maybe a bit more than 30 points. Like
yeah, I counted it. It's close to 40 actually.
No. If we imagine 2 black stones at these points, so let's make it triangles. And so there's 2 black stones here, if we say.
Right.
That's 20, 30, 31 points.
31.
Mm-hmm. And if white plays this move and exchanges with black taking on the first line, maybe we should pull up 32. So somewhere around there, it doesn't really matter. But if you look at all those white stones and say, isn't that a lot of white stones captured by black? It's not really as bad as that, because there's a lot of black stones inside that area to make up for that. So like there's something called a tewari, where you take away stones from both colors. So we would go back one move and say, for instance, white plays here and black plays here. So there's 10 white stones that were captured. So it would be these 10 stones that were captured. And we would just have to take off black stones, and black stones. That's already 5. Let's see, I've got to 8, 9, 10. And if we do that, you can see I'll put squares on the remaining black stones that are floating around inside this black territory. It means that black, if we take all of those marked stones off, it's a sizable, good-looking black territory. But if we have to add 3 black stones that are the squares, that's going to be a lot of black stones inside that black territory. So and so, yeah, I could probably just take all these stones off within the program, but I'll not do that just in case I mess up the whole thing. So I'll avoid that danger, the trap.
Well,
And
and
yes,
talk just a little bit about the in this variation, those before we get to the floating, the parachute stone there.
okay.
The three stones, how do you feel about those three, that wall, that black wall in the upper right?
Oh yeah, that black wall. Well, like if there was a white stone here, let's use the triangle marker. If there was a white stone here, and then white continued with a move somewhere around here, these black stones would come under attack. Actually, let's just make a diagram. So it's black's turn here. So let's just put two white stones on the board and say, if black plays stuff like this, usually black can manage to survive here. So white would usually play here. Black can start a ko. Assume black wins the ko, then black would have a forcing move. For instance, this kind of forcing move, or starting here, having forcing moves here. It means that black has, in this variation, if white cuts here, this is going to be bad for the corner. It's going to be a dangerous situation with the ko in the corner involved there. It means that if white can't cut there on the fifth line, black does have opportunities to move out into the center and stuff like this. So basically, it goes back to that ko on the right. When white plays here, white's going to be reluctant to connect that stone. And so if black can find some ko threats, just go back a move here. Yeah. If black can find some ko threats, then white's probably going to play a ko threat and allow black to finish the ko. So that would be one way that black could settle this group, just because white's not going to back away from that ko. So it's going to be a ko trade or black survives. So there's various ways black can handle that group. But the point is that going back earlier in the game, this was a group that black was trying to use to build a moyo maybe, or to play pressing moves like this on the outside to squish white down to the second line and build towards the center of the board and stuff like that. And those options have been taken away from black in the game version. So it's at this point, if black plays something like that, white's going to push through. Oh, I'm still on the, sorry about that. So if black plays something like this at some point, white's going to push through and cut. And this variation is just going to be, for instance, something like this. It would be just, black would at some point have to save those stones on the right. It's not going to be a good fight for black.
And I think when we were talking about it during the break, that you're fairly confident that black can survive those stones, but they're not going to do anything any other than survive.
They're not going to make any big territories or areas just because of this white wall that is sticking out there. It's a very strong position that white has.
Right. And can we go back before we move on to the game? Actually, white or black's Hane at I think Q6, I think.
Oh yeah, that move. Going after the 4 stones.
Yeah, can you talk about that?
Well, like I was saying, it's probably not so big. It's probably better for black to be doing something to connect up on the side, actually.
That's what I was wondering. What that maybe it's a slide. Yeah. Okay.
At some point, white probably needs to play this move, because the real threat there is not going after the 4 stones. It's going after the outside. So for instance, if something like this happens, we're going to see fairly quickly white's position is going to collapse. It's a complete reversal. This is suddenly going to look very good for black. It doesn't matter that white can play an Atari here. And black is not necessarily trying to capture those stones on the right. It's the squeeze in the center that's going to completely change the game. This is going to be good for black, suddenly. So white has to avoid this, and white would not be answering this kind of move. But it would be a lot more difficult for white. So I would suggest that white's probably going to play here immediately. And this would still be a nice thickness, a nice thick position for white. But I think it's going to be better for black when black is sort of connected up on the side here, has a strong position. And in this kind of position, black would have more flexibility about what he does about those 3 stones. Most likely, black's just going to leave that position and doesn't have to do anything about it. But black would still have, in some board positions, black would have ideas, for instance, to play, let's see, it's black's turn now. So black would still have options of this kind of joseki thing, or like I was saying before, options of this kind of stuff. So black would have more freedom about what black wanted to do in the upper right corner.
Got it.
And the fact that it's settled for the time being means that black would just be able to leave it. So for instance, black would, in actual play, black might be playing something towards the lower side, or towards the left in preparation for invading the lower side, or black could otherwise be moving to the upper left corner.
Cool.
I think it's, yeah, this would be good. I think you're right. It's probably better for black not to go after those 4 stones. It's just what they call useless. There's kasuishi. There's yeah. So white's not going to be doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
My,
Now you
catching up with me.
You were not so crazy about this this D6 move.
D6 is okay. Like in this position, invading is probably going to make it more complicated for white to surround the right side. So I sort of like D6, but I don't like the follow-up that white played.
Ah, okay, okay.
So white played here, black played here. This is a forced sequence where white is extending the wall, but I don't get this move. It seems a bit slow. It's not a direct threat against the black group, like if white continues.
Okay,
so black played here. Actually, I like this move. So if white continues with something like this, it just means that black can play something towards the side, and black will have no trouble there. Or if white plays something on this side, black can slide into the corner, for instance, and be alive. So that black group is basically, it's alive, and I don't see what the follow-up is. There's no super effective follow-up that white has. So this would be a point where if I was playing with white, like some players would be bothered by the fact that black has taken so many stones, but like I'm telling you, it's not really that big, and it's something close to 30 points, this one territory. And black's not going to get any more big territories. The rest of the board is controlled by white. And in this board position, I would say that if white can complete this territory, white can surround this territory in a good fashion without really struggling to do it. If white can accomplish that, then the game is over.
Show folks what you were suggesting though, because I was kind of laughing about it because it's a move that I would think of, but I actually liked
So I was going to play where black played. I think that was a good point.
Yeah.
So, well, there's something that I tell people when you think you're being too cautious in surrounding areas. When it's a big moyo in the center of the board, there was a great player in Japan called Takemiya. He's still around, actually. And in the 1980s to 90s, he would play the Sensei 3 stars in a row, and he would make these huge territories in the center of the board.
Cosmic Go.
Cosmic Go. And to be frank, the way he did it, it sort of defied a lot of the basics. And so it looked really stupid. And it turned out that it was ingenious. So what he does is that he makes these huge areas, and then he plays moves like this J8 that I'm playing here in the middle of the board. He just plays a lot of moves that seem to be overcautious. And that was because he knew that if he surrounded the area, if he managed to make it into a territory, it would be enough. So when I find myself in a game like this with the white stones, I just try to remember some of his best games, and I remember what Takemiya would. And I ask myself, what would Takemiya do? Because it's a when you have a big moyo like this, the normal ideas of playing efficiently or playing for the whole board, they don't work so well. And basically, when you have an area like this, if your opponent gets inside to it, then it's going to be full of holes. There's no way to complete it after your opponent has jumped in. You have to kill the opponent's group or something like that. It's a lot more difficult. But if you can sort of make a relatively small boundary like this would be, if we're looking at it from the viewpoint of the efficiency of stones, white's just playing so many stones inside. Let's play the Tari here too. White's just following black around. So it looks like it's bad, but actually this territory is going to be so huge. I'm going to try to count it. It's going to be more than 60 points. So I'm giving up at that point.
I was going to say it was like 40 points, but no, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it's huge. Like there's a chunk of 20 points that you can sort of envision just here, a 5x4. And there's a chunk, this is how you do it when you're lazy and you don't want to really do the counting. So there's a chunk of 20 points here. And there's an area in between that that's going to be close to 20 points. All these close to the ball. And there's some extra in the corner. So it's probably more like 65 points. Black's not going to get anything out of it. You just look at the rest of the board. The rest of the board, or you see the white stones all over the place. Black's got something that looks like a wall. There's nothing going to, there's no territory that's going to attach to it. Nothing to speak of.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's just bad. And so when black jumps in here, the way that white's going to win the game, you might say, suddenly it's going to be much more complicated. It's going to be a lot more difficult now. And like you sort of want to attack.
Yeah.
There's this black stone that could be a bit annoying. It's going to be in the few moves I saw of the actual game, it was getting to be a bit annoying also. So when black moves out here and we envision this kind of position, you can already see that white's group on the right side, eventually it's going to start looking a bit weak. It's a wall, but it doesn't have any eyes. That's another Takemiya thing. He used to make walls with no eyes. And then it looked like he was giving all the territory to his opponent, but he was actually connecting his wall to the rest of the board. And you'd see him make a different moyo in an unlikely place. Just works perfectly for him.
This is not one of the rules, folks. You know, eyes. We don't need no stinking eyes.
You don't need them if you're connected up to the rest of the board. So
right.
This is the game. Okay, this is not the game. So this is the game move I saw. I sort of agree with this white move. White needs to protect what he has, but you already see that the level of territory when we compare it to this move, it's gone 3 lines down towards the side.
Yeah.
So it's these 3 lines that have disappeared from white's territory. This line, and this line is going to be white stones. 3 lines when you have this kind of width, it's something like 20 to 30 points. That's just the size of the moyo was so big that every line difference in white's territory is going to make something close to 10 points difference. So that's why I'm thinking, yeah, that's why white should have played here.
Well, actually, I was remembering Bruce Wilcox had a thing called Instant Go, actually. If you go back for just a second, the way that he would do it, the way that he would choose, go back to where it's open. Yeah. Take the black stone out. He would draw a line, actually from white's. He would draw a line from the white, the marked white stone on the left to the white stone at the top of the wall. There, he would draw a line, and then he'd say that was the line to think about playing on.
I'll try to do a better job at drawing the line. Let's see if I can make it cover that point that I want to. Yeah, but
feels about right.
So that's the rule of thumb. It's 1 line further out than I was suggesting, or than black played. So black played pretty deep, and also I think that white. When I say white should play here, so I'm playing a bit inside the line.
I see. Yeah.
The idea there, it sort of has to do with the fact that this black stone is a potential problem.
Got it.
So it's, maybe white's sort of dealing with the weakness there. To be honest, I don't know. Like I don't know what the bet. I would play somewhere around here.
That'll be interesting. We'll see.
That's my guess.
Yeah.
So in the game, black played here, and then black jumped in, which is sort of it's a very dangerous way to play. So I don't really suggest this is a good move. I think if black wanted to move out with that black stone, black could have actually moved out immediately, and this would have been fairly difficult too. So like if white plays what looks like the shape move here, this is probably already good for black. But something like this, you can see that in this variation at least, black is getting some momentum to move out, just with the potential squeeze here, which black is probably not going to put on the board, but just the fact that white has a shortage of liberties here. It means that black's probably going to survive with this group, right smack in the middle of where white wanted to make turtle.
And
So, yeah.
sort of
This was pretty biased towards to making it easy for black, but you can see that moving out with this one stone immediately would if black's going to move out with that stone, this would be the normal way to do it. And this playing once from above and then doing it is the super dangerous way of doing it. Which, if it works, it's going to be very effective. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was a bit dangerous.
So I don't know Henry's game. It's the first time I'm seeing it, but and I just want to sort of run this by you. And folks, remember, you can weigh in comments, questions as well. But I'm going to say that K5 is a consistent move with Q6.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I see what you're trying to say, and I would agree that his strategy in this game, his game plan, seems to be to take territory and then just invade.
Yep.
And while this is very, very dangerous, and it's going to require a lot of calculation, if black actually survives with this stone that black has just played on the lower side, then white's going to have some trouble making territory. So. Finishing this territory that was centered on the lower side. Although I really like the position for white, the question of whether white manages to finish this territory or not is probably more important than all the good stuff that was happening before for white. So that's why I would be saying that white had to be a bit more cautious about drawing a line for the outside boundary of this territory. I'll just show you that variation once more. Let's see, where was it? Was this move? Just drawing a relatively cautious line where white knows that even if black gets in here, white's going to be able to draw a line. White's going to be able to finish this territory. If black jumps inside, I'd say it's pretty obvious. If black comes inside, it's pretty obvious that the white wants the stone here instead of way off over there. It's just having the stone there to start with in the middle of the board and closing black already. It's just going to be so much more effective. So white can handle an invasion like this just by preventing black from making two eyes. And then black will have no hope to survive. So basically, if white puts a stone there in the center of the board, it's going to be virtually impossible for black to come inside that. Whereas when black does come inside that, the good side of black's plan here, where black has 30 points in the lower right corner, it probably has something close to 10 points on the left side. Black has about 40 points. If black can just mix up the whole area on the lower side, white only has the 10 points, close to 10 points in the upper right corner, and nothing else is decided yet. So white's going to have trouble with territory if white cannot really get this black group into trouble. So it's dangerous for black, but if it works out locally, it's a potential winning pattern. And I wouldn't be surprised if this was black's game plan, but there were two moves there in the lower right corner that I really didn't like the cut here and the direction that black took the one stone. So strictly speaking, I think that was bad for black, but when black does get to attack the lower side, the outcome of the game is probably going to depend on this local fight here. So just a couple more moves that I have. I'm pretty sure that the game has moved.
Yeah, Stephen has some more moves for you, actually.
Yeah.
Because as if you take a look, the very interesting, big, lots more fighting, obviously. While Stephen is catching us up on the game, just a reminder to everybody, we are live, and so we are taking your comments or questions. So feel free to throw those up in the chat. And just a quick question, Michael, you're obviously there just outside of Tokyo, where the 2020/2021 Olympics have just started. And I know that
they're still calling it 2020.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Very confusing. All right, 2020 to 2020 asterisk Olympics. So anything to report? I know they've got some reported cases of COVID.
Well, yes. So Japan so far, I'd say that Japan has been pretty lucky with the pandemic because the number of cases was relatively low. And like at the peaks, it was probably several thousand new cases each day for the whole country. So that's when we compare it to some of the countries that got hit harder, I think Japan has been really lucky. But actually, we're reaching a third peak right now. So like, I think it was at the beginning of this year, and then in spring, we had two peaks that probably went up to somewhere around 5,000 to 6,000. I don't really remember.
Right.
New cases each day. And we're getting there now. I think I think right now, today, I think I saw something in the 4,000, so close to 5,000 new cases. And there were 100 new cases of COVID that actually directly had to do with the Olympics. So there were people who came to the Olympics or had to do with the Olympics. New cases, the full number of cases from the Olympics was 100. So maybe not all of them today, but in total. So that's sort of worrying because there people are coming from throughout the world. They probably have different experience. I'm not a medical expert, but I get the feeling that that's sort of dangerous, kind of a cocktail of experience of the virus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worries me. And the vaccination in Japan is a bit slow because they seem to run out of the vaccinations. And it's sort of hard to understand what's going on because the government and the local governments are saying different things about that. But it turns out that they can't vaccinate right now. They're not accepting new applications. And so it's my turn right now. My age group has come into, we're supposed to be able to apply, make reservations, but they don't feel they have enough vaccinations. They have to keep the vaccinations they have for people who are doing it the second time.
Wow. So you haven't been able to get vaccinated yet?
Hopefully in a week or so, I should be able to make reservations. I don't know how that's going to turn out, when it's going to start, but I think the process starts in about a week for me.
Wow.
And there's still a lot of age groups below me who still have to wait their turn.
That is just amazing to me that they're so far behind. I'm really amazed.
I think part of it, as I was saying to start with, is the fact that Japan was relatively lucky. And so on a worldwide scale, I think the vaccinations were sort of slow to come just because it wasn't such a dangerous area.
Right. Well, and I can tell you that even here in the States, where we have a relatively high vaccination rate, we've got the Delta variant is all over the place. And our cases are spiking, obviously, among the unvaccinated. And now there's starting to be some question about, what can, how even people who are vaccinated can be effective. So I think we're a long ways from being out of the woods. But speaking of which, it looks like, and people are asking, you just played out the sequence there to I think the last move was.
So I show the final position that we have here.
Yeah. So the question that folks are wondering is whether whether this was good for Black, whether Black was successful.
Black has definitely survived. White has gotten about 20 points out of it on the side there, and we'll probably get some territory in the center. So the territory is more balanced now. Black does have this unsettled group in the center of the board, which will still Black still needs to pay attention to it.
It's only
Black survived.
It's got the one eye there.
It's got the one eye. So it's it wasn't a collapse for Black. Black does have something close to 40 points of territory, and White for the time being. If we add Komi to White's territory, like I would say that This area is probably more than 20 points on the lower side. So I'll mark out an area there, which I would sort of call white's territory. And that's somewhere in the vicinity of 20 points. And so I would be expecting white to get some points here in the center. If white plays relatively conservatively, white should have, well, less than 10 points, but somewhere close to 10 points there. And white usually gets some territory in this corner too, as you can see. It looks like a white territory for the time being. And so between those, I would say white, for the time being, I would count about 15 points there, just as a kind of an estimate. That makes white 35 points in the whole. And I was saying black has more than 30 points, about 30 points in the lower right corner, and maybe close to 10 points on the left side. That means that already white's pretty close to black if you add Comey. In fact, a simple calculation there gives white maybe a couple of points advantage. If we say black is something like 40 and white is something like 35, white does have a slight advantage with a 7.5 point Comey. And white has the upper left corner. White has some potential to attack in the center. I'd say white, it looks like white has a small advantage. Not as big an advantage as white should have had if white had done a better job of surrounding this area. It sort of depends on some more successful attacking in the center of the board, which white should be able to do. But it's also an area where sometimes things sort of go wrong if you get a bit careless.
You're talking about for white or for black?
For white, well, things went wrong for black in the lower right corner already.
Yeah.
For black's free to take chances, but for white, like keeping the status quo and taking this to the end of the game can sometimes be challenging, especially when white tries to attack black in the center of the board. That would be a point of the game where white could get into dangerous waters.
Interesting.
Attacking is usually more difficult.
But I mean, it seemed like that white's plan would be to attack and make points while attacking. And I'm still worried about those. And it looks like black just is trying to take care of that with the jump at R12.
So my plan would be to attack and take points.
Yeah.
Because I'm starting with the idea that it's good for white. And I would think it would be safer. But Ryan probably, he's the type of player who could be tempted into going after the black group. And the problem with this position is that it's a position where white probably will have opportunities to try to do that. And so it's sort of tempting. And sometimes you get confused when you have more than one option and they both seem to be working for you. It's confusing, like, so white can win by territory, white can win by trying to kill the black group. And if you have trouble choosing between those two lines of play, then your play can become inconsistent. So it's a kind of a dangerous point where being too far ahead makes it more difficult to play. If you understand what I'm trying, the point I'm trying to make.
I do, but being too far ahead is not usually a problem that I have. So
okay. Or being too comfortable with the position, you get careless.
Yeah, again, no. I'm usually the one, trying to cause trouble and get back in the game.
Let's go back a while to see how black managed to do this. So black is invaded here. And yes, so white had to play the knight's move here, because if white had played a Hane on top here, this would have potentially had problems. So like in this position, black can cut here and break through here. So that's the idea that black had when black was pushing there, the fact that it's not so easy for white to surround.
Right.
So in the game move, when white plays, when white played the knight's move here, now white can handle this variation with the hanging connection here. And this way white can close black. So that's the difference there. So that's how white's move was working. And this is probably the only move in this move, unless white wants to play the Atari first. And black pushed here. And you can see that white's stones on the side here, they're starting to get into trouble. So white has to be careful about that. And white did play that exchange, okay. That's an exchange that black could have played too, but black sort of chose not to play it. And then here on the Hane, Yeah. So this is a point where the ladder favors black. So that's an interesting variation. So black could have played here. This would have been the straightforward way to do it. And white will extend here, obviously. Black can push through here and cut. And we have a ladder. So something like this. Black actually captures that white stone on the ladder, but white has this super effective ladder breaking move, which is probably going to make this good for white. And again, at some point, why is this not? At some point, white does have to play the target. It's probably advisable for white to play the target. But this ladder break is so effective. It's just like if we assume something like this, this is obviously going to be a win for white. So that was not an option. On the game, black instead cut here. So cutting here is a Tetsuji. And if white plays here, black can play here. And it looks very similar to the previous diagram, only black's going to get some extra mileage out of it by playing this exchange. You can see black has an extra eye there. So in this case, even if black just extended here, it's probably going to be fairly easy for black to survive. So just this extra eye that black gets on the side here, it's going to be super useful. So white extended here. Just to make one more variation, if black plays the Atari from the fourth line, and I showed you the variation where white connected. If white takes the one stone, now black gets to play the ko here. And this is potentially better for black too. So this is still, even if black plays here and plays something like this and like this, you can already see some eyes being developed. So the cut there was a pretty sharp move, I think. And white, instead of playing this move, white extended. And this was basically making the cut on the, if black plays here, for instance, if black's group on the outside was completely strong, black would be able to extend here, but white has this cut in the center of the board, and white's going to capture the black group. So that's white's plan there. White's making miai of that move, or if black plays here, white can play on this side. So let's see how they played it out. Black just simply connected, so white pushed through here. And again, black's going to be able to capture. Okay, so black could capture again in the ladder, and it would be the same story as before. White would push here, and this would be a ladder breaking move. If black answers on the outside, this is just going to be great for white. So basically, if black answers here, white's going to escape the ladder. This is going to be bad for black too. It's not working. So black actually played the game sequence. Black is setting up a net, a geta. With this, it's really, you sort of wish that black could have changed the order of moves here. Let's see what happens if black changes the order and plays from this side. You sort of wish that this would work. It's probably a dangerous race to capture that black is not going to win. I'm pretty secure in saying that I think that white's going to win this. Like white could even play this move and extend white's liberties. This race to capture is just going to be hopeless for black. You can probably play multiple moves for black. Oh, sorry. White has to answer that. You could probably play multiple moves for black and it will still be bad. But you can see it's a standard eye versus no eye situation. So black would have liked to be able to play from the center, but did not have enough liberties. So this would be the, if it was one of my Tetsuji problems or something like that, I would probably give black a few extra liberties and make this move work, because this is the move that is the move you wished you could play. But as I was sort of researching just now, it turns out white's going to win the semi. So black had to play this move, which is forcing now. You can see that if we get into a variation like this, it's just going to be more liberties for the black group. There's some open space, some open liberties here that were not open before. So it's going to be about 2 moves difference, which is going to make it's going to be important.
Right.
So black played this, and black is losing a lot of points on the lower side. It's a very nice white territory, but black did manage to capture and get that. So black's not gonna, black's not getting into that variation where white has totally destroyed the left side. This would be just too painful. So that's what black accomplished with the whole sequence here, which did give white a nice territory of 20 points on the lower side, but black survived basically. So now, yeah, so that's the moves I have on the board here. We probably need some more moves now.
Yeah, Stephen will catch us up, but it I mean, I know Ryan's game pretty well, and his I don't know what the time situation. Oh, there it is. He's got a little less time than Henry, but still plenty of time, and he doesn't rattle. You know, it's obviously going to be something, at least so far. But I guess I think the what I'm not really feeling is that situation where black has to save those. I mean, even, you can see that black is still, if you look at the game on the left, black is still trying to get that second die. And it just seems like white can just be, racking up the points, and not in big chunks, right? 5 here, 10 there. And black just basically has to get 2 points, get his 2 eyes. Black is not going to make any more points with that group, right? I mean, no way.
You can take the commentary from here.
You've made it very easy, right? Oh, but wait a minute. No, I wanted to ask because people were teasing me earlier, but I want to point out that I think black now got his 40 points on the right side.
Right. I think you're right. Black got about 40 points.
I saw that. I saw that way back. Okay.
Yeah. Your foresight. Yeah. So black got, let's just take a quick look at the game position as, oh, sorry about that.
Whoa.
I'm not sure what I did here. But let's catch up with the game. Yeah, I tried to do it quickly and it did not work.
That's it. No problem. I'm looking at the actual game, and it looks like one of my games where I'm, trying to find that second eye in the middle of the board, and they keep getting poked out.
Yeah, I was just, okay. So here we are. Black did get, when black jumps here. So this is the game. Let's just take the moves one at a time.
Yeah.
So this was where we left off just a moment ago. And black played here. Black basically has to do something about this group. So black is reinforcing it. You can see white is playing fairly solidly, trying to make a 10-point territory with this group.
Right.
And it's really important to keep this group healthy, because this is the group that actually could potentially get into trouble. Although it's this big wall, it looks so strong, you have to be careful of the walls too, because this wall doesn't have any eyes. You might notice that it's completely covered on this side. So it means that white doesn't have any extra liberties on the inside. And that's something that can be fairly important sometimes. You get into a race to capture or something like that. The fact that this white group does not have any outside liberties, you might say, if it gets into a tangle with the black group, that's going to be significant. And so white has to be really careful about keeping this space here. And so that's something I like about this move that white has played, just protecting it very carefully. If white can keep that space, it's going to be something like a 10-point territory. It's going to be worth it. That 10 points is going to be valuable in catching up to black's territory.
And it also keeps the pressure on black on the left, right?
Well, yes, obviously.
Yeah.
So the Kosumi there on the upper side, that's a kind of a standard move, where if white wanted to be really nasty, white could try to invade the right side with a move like, the reason white's not playing moves like this, or moves like this, is the fact that these moves have almost no effect on black's position in the lower right corner. And so like if black plays something like this, it's just basically it's an exchange of 2 points that are both not worth very much. But black's move, Blackstone there actually has more potential towards the upper side. It has more potential of reducing white.
I see. Okay.
So it's although this white move that white played on the left side, I mean the right side, it's probably worth about 10 points. It's more like an endgame move, whereas black move is an opening move.
Got it.
Like, you sort of wish that you could just kill that black group.
You really do.
That doesn't always happen. So yeah, so it's more wise for white to be playing a move that has effect on the rest of the board. So it's I agree with the way white's handling it here.
Yeah, no, it's a lovely move.
So black did get 40 points on the right side. And this is interesting. The order of moves here is.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that.
It's worth noticing. So let's change the order of moves and have white play this one first. When white plays this way, black has the option of answering like this. And it means that later on in the game, black will be able to cut white at this point. Or at this point. One of these points, black can cut white. So it's white was sort of asking this side first. I think it's an example of good order of moves, where when white plays here, black's less likely to play that. And when black does, if black does something like this, then later on, if black does try to cut with this move, you can see that that extra liberty that's still left open is going to make a difference. So playing this extension before playing the peep on the outside, I think that was the correct order of moves here. And it doesn't matter if black does stuff like this. This is not really going to help the black group. It's just going to help white enclose it. So black simply captured. In fact, if I was going to try to play a forcing move with black before capturing the one stone, I would be looking at moves from the outside, like this. Sort of like to play this move, but it's probably not going to work. I would like to be able to play this move and make white run away and then play here. And then I would be able to think that this stone is probably going to be more effective than the white stone over here. Just looking at the potential towards the upper side and stuff like that.
Mm.
But in actual play, white might just connect here. And this would potentially be a big problem for black. Just not going to work. It's not flying. Oh, look at all these cutting points. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So in actual play, it's sort of something you wish you could do, but it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's a disaster.
Something like this, it would be forcing, but I would not be sure if it was a good exchange or not. It's sort of ambiguous, hard to say.
Can we just go back real quick to black's move at R12? Is that the right place for black to play right now? Is that the biggest place, do you think?
Okay, black doesn't want to be attacked in the upper right and forced to make two eyes.
Okay.
So I think it's reasonable. And at this point, black really has to keep up with white in making territory.
Right.
Because black doesn't, the 30 points in the lower right corner is just not going to be enough.
Right.
Like you add the left side is something like 40 points.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be enough because white's already at 30 if we just look at the lower side and the center here. This is more than 20. And, connected them. And the center is something like 10. So white already has 30 points. White already has 30 points there. So the 30 points plus several points on the left, white's already sort of caught up with that. If you add Comey, it means that white's going to win by what white gets on the upper side of the board. Black has to continue putting pressure on white as much as possible by keeping up with the territory. So that's what this move is doing, just getting an extra 10 points in the one part of the board where black has potential to get some extra territory. Trying to keep the pressure on white by getting black's territory up to the vicinity of 50 points.
So is it fair to say, and I have a quick update from Steven on the other two boards in just a second, but is it fair to say that even though we're clearly still in middle game, but they're also really looking at end game at this point, right? I mean, this is sort of starting to edge that way. I mean, nothing is like, gonna die, I'm assuming.
I'm not going to promise you that. No. This black group in the center, if black wants to live, if black is going to play cautiously here and try to live in the center, obviously it's not going to done. But actually in this game, like if we assume something, it would be reasonable for black to play, for instance, here at this point. And I sort of doubt that white's going to try to kill this black group. So if we assume that white just leaves it and starts playing stuff like this on the upper side, How much territory do you think white's going to get on the upper side?
Oh, geez. I mean, I'm tempted to say 40 points just because, you know, but I mean, white is you know, he's going to get the corner or the side. I mean, he's got what,
Right.
at least another, he can, what, another good 20 points up there somewhere, somehow. Plus, you've got a nice little moyo building in the center. I mean, it's got points all over the place, right?
Right. Yeah. So like you can very cautiously say that at least 30 points, and your 40-point idea is probably not so off the mark. But if we look at black's territory, black has 40 points on the right side of the board, from the lower right corner to the side. Has now black has slightly more than 10 points in the lower left corner. And when black has played that slide in the lower left corner, white's territory on the lower side is now probably a bit less than 20 points. But white has a good 10 points in the center. White already has 30 points in that part of the board, the lower half of the board. If white gets something like 30 points in the upper side, white's at 60 already. It means black needs close to 70 points to win the game.
And black still
And
has
black
to pay
only has
Kobe.
something, but black has less than 60.
Right.
So what I'm saying here is at some point, black is going to start something in the upper right. I mean, the upper left.
Upper left, yeah.
And there's going to be a final fight in that area. So black wants to start it already, but is having trouble finding the right time to do it. Like, so for instance, at this point, black already wants to do that. Black already wants to start something with a move somewhere around here. But it's a bit too obvious that black's group in the center is going to die. So black's trying to survive in the center as well as getting to the upper side in time. So like if white dawdles a bit and starts doing stuff like this, and this is actually a pretty good move. So I'm not going to call it a bad move. If white is a bit slow on surrounding the upper side, then we're going to see a final attack. So like if white was really focused on trying to attack black in the center of the board and was doing stuff like this, when it wasn't really forcing, this is a point where maybe black would be, actually I should go back to do that. So at this point, maybe. Obviously, white's not going to play that move. That was just kind of an example. But if white is a bit too tenacious in the idea of attacking black in the center of the board, you could see black sort of diving into the corner here, taking away white's territory. Just trying to make a winning scenario for black. Black takes away the corner territory. Black has something like close to 60 points now. And if white really fails in attacking the center, white's going to be something like 50 points or something, and it's going to turn into a close. So this is the kind of the scenario that black is trying to create and has to try to create. But
black gets very busy.
But it's very busy at this point, and for the time being, this was probably forced, and this is a point. We might be in a variation that I created actually.
Yeah, I don't think that's not the game. No, that's not the game.
I'm extending the game moves, but I think it's the game.
There's a bamboo joint.
Right. Oh, it's a bamboo joint. So yeah. This is less eyes, but more potential towards the left when black starts playing moves like this. So yeah, I'm actually making this a variation. Stephen will probably have to find a way to make this the game variation. I wonder if he can.
Yeah, let's actually maybe.
He can erase the variations I put in, and then he can.
Yeah. Let's get Stephen to fix that, because what you're talking about, what's happened, black does get going in the upper left, but it looks to me, and I'm just looking at it real quickly, but it looks to be like black is collapsing in the upper left, right? If you look.
Yeah. Right now, I don't have the Twitch window open, so
got it.
I'm just looking at this broadcast here.
Okay, let me have Stephen catch us up to the actual game, if you would, Stephen, so that we can go on. And also, while Stephen is doing that, I have an update on boards 2 and 3. Board 2, at least when I got this report, was up to move 122, and board 3 must have some other time control, because board 3 is only on number 80. My God, wow. All right.
So what's the time control for when they run out of time?
A good question. Let me ask Stephen, but I know, like, in this game, Brian's down to six minutes on his main time, and Henry's down to 11.
Mm-hmm.
So let me.
And there must be some time after that. So a certain amount.
Right. Oh yeah. All right, good. Yes, you're back to the game. The game actually, yeah, here we go. So, but just real quickly, it seems, I mean,
It's dangerous for black.
it's very dangerous for black, right? I mean, black is just sort of, this is desperation time essentially, right? He's just
Right. Well, it was bad for black to start with, and it at this point it's sort of according to plan for it to be dangerous. Like that's what black wants to be dangerous, because he wants white to be tempted into trying to kill something, and he wants white to fail, basically. That's the only winning scenario for black, basically.
yeah. Well, that's not Ryan's style. I mean, Ryan will kill you if you insist on it, but
That could happen in this game. So this is actually a Tesuji, and white could have played on the left or the right. White had a choice here. If white had played on the left, then black has some potential. What black would probably play here anyway, and would have slightly more eye space. So that's the idea there, and also would have, at some point, would have a potential cut here, which could become a problem if white filled liberty. So like if we're talking about white playing moves like this to take away black's eye, you can see white's liberties are filling up. White wouldn't play that move. And in some cases, this would be hitting shortage of liberties in white's position. So there is some potential involved with that cut there that black is sort of aiming at with that. And so white chose to play the Ponnunki variation, where white plays an Atari from this side, and black actually gained a tempo here. Black got an extra move. If we compare it to black just simply playing the bamboo joint here, white would just ignore this. And then, of course, later on in the game, if black plays here, white would play from this. Or if black plays here, it's a completely different idea here, where white's stones are relatively easily connected, even if white plays the knight. So it's completely different. And so this is actually a Tesuji to play the move here. And white took the one stone, giving black an extra tempo, but getting some extra thickness. So white's trying to simplify the game. You can see that he has the right idea here.
right.
And black is trying to complicate it. And they both have the right idea. Like these guys, I think that Henry he was a professional in Taiwan, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so he's a professional. And of course, Ryan is a professional in America. So you sort of expect them to have the right ideas. Here, if white had taken here, then we would potentially see black having two forcing moves here with an eye on the upper side. So this is not alive yet. But it looks like maybe black can handle it. And crawling on the second line is a stronger move, in which case, if black extends here, white can bump against here and capture those two black stones on the left if black covers. So this is a one move win for white. Or if black extends out, white's going to push through here, and everything on the right there is going to die. So that's white's plan. And black is going to try to change what happens there on the upper side by playing this move. Okay, so let's see if I can make it work. What's black? You know, it's going to be really difficult to make this work.
Yes. I mean, black just seems he just seems so busy. And honestly, I'm still looking. I mean, I'm not convinced that big, dragon in the middle of the board is out of the woods.
Let's just say that, okay, let's see if I can, let's just make an imaginary variation here.
That's my favorite kind of variation.
Okay, it's something like this, and that plays something like this. And so basically black's trying to set up a shape where pushing through here is not going to work anymore. So it would be something like this, where black is at some point going to play covering here, and is going to be looking at moves in the corner like this, which would capture 5 stones. And on the other hand, looking at moves like this, which don't actually work. It still doesn't work. I went to this extent and it still doesn't work, but black is sort of hoping for something along this line where black can make this move bumping against here fail. But it's going to be very difficult to actually execute that, because even in this variation where I tried to show it, and I was actually playing questionable moves for white in the attempt to show how this might happen. it's still not really working for because white can push through on both sides and cut here. It's just not.
I mean, this is. I think the takeaway here is that this is, the power of thickness, right, Michael? I mean, but
yeah,
white
when
just
used properly, yeah. Well, it's just white had such a strong position there. Let's see. I made a variation on the main line again.
they
Stephen's gonna
call
have to
him Mr. Variation.
Yeah. Okay, so I think the game moves that I have are up to this point, and white has a number of ways to deal with that. So white could extend at this point. White could bump against at this point. White would still be ahead even if white started playing on the upper side with something like this. So all those triangles that I put here, these are all moves that actually the move in that variation I made is also possible. For the time being, white's going to be okay wherever he plays. So white probably has to make multiple mistakes to throw the game at this. But if you make a mistake, multiple mistakes do happen. It's kind of a pattern. Like if you mess up at some point, you get nervous or upset, you can make more mistakes. So that's how games like this can sometimes be turned around.
No, I remember actually a couple of your games where you were in your professional, tournament games where you were in trouble and your opponent inexplicably made a wrong move, and all of a sudden you were fine.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
it's relatively easy to understand what's happening after the game when you're doing the review. Sometimes during the game it's hard to know.
Right.
And of course, I've messed up winning games of my own. I have stories to tell. Which when you've messed up, it's not so pleasant, Terry.
No, it's terrible, very upsetting.
So black's trying to make something, but I sort of doubt that it's going to work. And the way white's playing is he is playing fairly cautiously. Like he already has established this line, which gives white an 11-point territory there. Probably a bit more, but this is kind of a baseline for that white territory, which is pretty safe at this point. And it's really important to keep these stones alive. And white has, let's see, how much territory is it on the lower side now? It's probably more like, if we assume that black is going to play this forcing sequence in the end game. So this is how you count it, this kind of sequence like this. And that's 17 points. And black's territory on the side, like if we assume something like this, that's more like 15 points. About less than 15 points, more than 10 points. So black's complete territory is still somewhere around 50. It's still in the vicinity
Right.
of 50 points.
Just a quick update. So Ryan has won the game.
Oh, it's over already. Yeah.
Yeah. So which we could go through real quick here, but you can see just on the I should say, because you're not seeing the stream, but black basically just gets shredded. None of the stuff in the upper left works. Basically everything in the upper left just dies.
Right. Well, yeah, just to go back a little bit, if black really wanted it to work, it probably would have been the attachment and honey on this side. And it's just the fact that this kind of variation is no longer a winning scenario for black. Like all white has to do is finish the side, and that's going to be something like the 40 points you were talking about. And so it's going to be enough for white.
Yeah, that'd be a straightforward, but it's just that's why black tries to.
So black was doing it in a way that was a bit more greedy, and it wasn't going to work. But basically, black didn't really have very much of a choice. Black probably had to try it.
Right. I mean, yeah, black. I mean, I don't. Yeah, it's not greedy, but he has no choice, as you say. He's got it. He's got it. But the problem is he has too many goals to accomplish, right? I mean, he's got to erase.
The standard group. Actually, the standard group is probably. I sort of doubt that it would get into trouble at this stage. But just the upper side, as in itself, that's a lot of white stones lined up in the center of the board, making it difficult.
Right. I think your point is that, white can let black live in the corner. White can probably let black live in the upper sides as long as black lives small, because, white can basically take the upper left corner. White can take the upper left side. White can take the middle territory. As it turns out, white actually just takes all of those.
Right. Yeah. Because black didn't play in a simple way. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Black couldn't afford to do that.
Right. It's one of those things where when you're playing the AI, in that situation, we'll see later on when we take a look at it, where, that your chance of winning just goes down to like, 1%, because, it's just gone. It's just done.
Yeah. Well, human players can lose it from that point.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right. So Stephen is preparing board 2's game for us.
Okay.
To take a look at, and we'll be able to do that. He's preparing that for us. He'll give us a link in just a second. But so that's one game so far for New York City, and I have to say, not certainly, can't call that a big surprise. I mean, Ryan is very, very strong, as we know. It certainly seems like Henry it sounds like he had a plan. It looked like he had a plan. I'm not convinced. I mean, like you were saying, his plan was to take basically get a bunch of cash early, which he did. He took, but it just, I think it's just very difficult to give your opponent that much thickness, right? I mean, it's tricky, right?
Right. Well, yeah, it was just that the way he took the territory, it was a bad variation. Just the lower right corner, the way black played that, it was wrong. It was bad. That's a variation that we know about. The scan, the double Hanchen towards the corner, is something that just about everyone has researched.
Got it.
And so I can fairly confidently say that was a way that black should not have played.
Michael, if you look in our chat in the Zoom room, you'll see a link for board 2.
I think I already have it out.
Oh, okay. Then you can switch over there.
So I'm seeing 150 moves. Is that right?
I believe so. Yes. So Eva-Dee.
When I even have control. Yeah.
Oh wait, so very nicely done, team. Well done. Yeah. Okay, these guys are amazing. Wow. Just a shout out to Stephen and Eva-Dee. They continue. Right. Apparently, Stephen is getting like no sleep. So y'all be nice to him, because he's working very hard. So.
Okay, so this is Hanchen Zhang, and he's the one professional, and Bill Lean. So which player is representing where?
Bill is from Vancouver. Hanchen is from New York City.
Okay, so this looks like it's a fairly, from what I saw at the beginning, it was a fairly balanced opening, actually. So let's go to the start of the game.
Let's take a look at it.
And so that you should be seeing me playing out the first few moves. Black played a big Sumari, a big corner enclosure in the upper right. White plays a Kakari here. This whole sequence is seen a lot in professional games also. And black starts playing towards the left side. Playing the pincer, it's again a position where you might see an AI suggesting something like this or like this. Are you okay with the board? Are you seeing the board, Chris? Good. Yeah, so usually the computers do not like it. Programs like Katago do not like it when you allow your opponent to play the pressing move here. But it's, frankly, compared to the mistakes that human players make later in the game, it's not a very big difference. So like if you like to play this way, it's, as far as I'm concerned, I just choose the variation that I like better. And a few points difference in the computer scores is not something that bothers me. I know that I make 10-point or bigger mistakes later in the game, even as a top professional.
Right.
Even watching title matches or world championship matches, you see mistakes that make a bigger difference. And so black extends here. This is also an important point on the lower side, and it's going to set up some attacks that black might have against the white position on the right side there. So for instance, in the old times, you would see players playing here. Nowadays, you often see them playing an attachment here. And so there's various moves that black can try against this white group to scoop out the white territory, or in some cases to actually try to take away its eyes and attack it. So white plays a pincer on the lower side. I guess this is okay. And black plays here. So here we're going to see black play the cut here. Yes, so this is also a move that's pretty tricky. And white just took the one stump. So in this case, black plays an Atari here. And if white connects against that, black's going to get another forcing move in the corner. And this is just really good for black, because at any point black can play here and have a living shape in the corner. So this is the ideal shape where black is trying to get. On the other hand, when white takes here, black gets an Atari here. If white connects, black's just going to have some extra forcing moves from the outside. And black's going to like this also. It's going to be good for black also. It's just what black's going to try to play a lot of forcing moves against white on the left, excuse me. And then he's probably going to get the pincer on the. So that's the idea. He's trying to create a relatively happy group on the left so that black can play the pincer on the left. And white doesn't want that to happen in a natural fashion. So it makes sense that white took the one stump. So this is probably going to get a good score with the computer when white plays the ko here also. Just because this is not a direct coast. When we compare to this variation where white got pushed around a little bit on the left, this is going to be more efficient when white does capture that stone. So if at some point white gets to play here and capture the stone, that's going to be a very efficient, a really good shape there. And when black captures the ko, this is not a direct threat. So black would have to either cut here next to start a direct ko, or black would have to connect here and then would need one more move before black really accomplishes it. So in this case, there would be the option for white later to be playing something like this and protecting the cut on the side. So it means that both players, especially white, can afford to play relatively normal moves for their ko threats. It's not like white has to play something that's going to be super forceful. So for instance, a move like this or a move like this would be a very forceful ko threat, but it would also be a bad exchange when black answers it. So when white plays something like this, this is an example of locally a terrible move, which would be forcing as a ko threat, but it would not be good enough to justify taking the call. So black would probably be able to get away with some kind of a trade like this after getting all that profit in the corner. Or black could even just go for the immediate profit by playing here. So both players will be avoiding playing this kind of move, playing relatively soft ko threats, because the ko is not as direct as it might be. The fact that whichever side wins the ko, when white wins the ko, it's an area that was sort of dominated by white already. So it's okay for black. And if black wins the ko, as I was saying, it's not a direct profit, immediate move. So white plays this forcing move in the lower right corner, which this is a move that could have been played at some point in the game anyway. So it's not a bad exchange for the black stone there. And okay, oh, this is the game move. Black played here and was willing to make that trade. So white answered that. And now white, this is also a move that naturally white doesn't really want to play this move and leave it. Black's gonna answer here. So usually white would continue locally. But if white continues locally, it's a perfectly reasonable move. So like if white plays something like this would be a variation that we see a lot. It's a very common move where white can reduce the corner. If black plays on the outside, white can crawl into the corner and live. Or if black plays, if instead of playing on the inside, this would just make it easy for white to escape. Or even this move, this would also make it easy for white. White would be able to get an eye there on the side and escape to the side. Black might play here. This is a variation I've seen, in which case white has to choose which side to protect the cut, and something like this might continue. So it's actually a pretty standard variation when white is attacking that two-space large corner enclosure. But in this case, white's using it as a closing. So naturally, white's not going to continue locally yet, but it's not erasing the potential to do that. So it's not necessarily a bad exchange for me. If white gets to play there later, it's going to be okay. Of course, if black plays here locally, it's a bad exchange. So this is the move that black might be looking to play at some point. But for the time being, that's not really a co-threat for black. So black is probably going to look for a co-threat. Let's see. Black played a co-threat. Oh, and white finished the co. So this was an interesting trade where black is getting profit towards the lower side. And maybe it's going to throw away those, sacrifice those stones in the corner. There we go. So white has captured the cornerstones. But black is probably happy enough in that black has got a position towards the side. This part of the white territory, this part, it was probably going to be a white territory anyway. If we just look at the original position where it was looking like this was already starting, it was an area anyway. It was starting to look like a white territory, and we take it a couple of moves ahead. Now it looks even more like a white territory. So if we assume that this part was a white territory to start with, you just have to remember them, because when you look at these big territories that are made during the game, you say that you can get the impression that sacrificing those black stones on the lower side gave white something like 40 points, but it's actually only the lower left corner area that was added onto white. So you have to remember that white started out with this area here that was controlled by white. And so I think it is a reasonable variation for the moves black played made sense. And let's see, I'd say that's 22, 24, 26, 20, 30. It is about 40 points. I think my estimating is 40 points. I think I was pretty much on the spot.
Yep.
And here I was talking about a black move here. This is a move that I see a lot of in computer analysis. And if white plays here, black's going to play a double hane, or it's going to cut. So you see something like this happening, and black is going for a squeeze on the outside with the potential to taking away white's eye space. And this is actually pretty annoying for white. It's already bad shape, where white was forced to play kind of a clumpy shape here to capture the black stones. And black is hoping to squeeze from outside and make a moyo in this direction. So this is something that actually happened in one of my games. I wonder if I did it with AGA or I think it was one of my Redmond reviews with AGA.
I think you're right, actually.
I think I played this move, or did I play this move? It didn't work very well for me. This was one of the games that we were talking about, where my opponent had an apparent lead.
I remember the game you're talking about, yeah.
And I survived somehow. Yes.
It was a sequencing. Your opponent had the right move, but it was in the wrong sequence.
Right. Yeah. So this is one of the games where this attack that black played with the attachment here was a good move in itself, and in the following sequence, I got into a lot of trouble. I got into one of those kind of unintentional sacrifice sequences. So this is the old-fashioned way of doing it, and wow, did white really play there? And it's probably not such a good variation for white, for black, that is. I don't really get why white did not play here. Maybe he was afraid of this move. White pushes through and cuts here. Black can survive. This looks sort of bad for black, though. For instance, if black pushes and plays here, it looks like white's going to have enough liberties to win the semi. Black only has 3 liberties, white has 4.
Oh dear.
If black pushes on this side, it's probably a similar idea. If white plays here, white's going to be able, oh no, maybe not. In this case, it might be a bit more dangerous for white. So if black plays here and here, maybe white's going to have trouble winning this one. So it could get into a potentially complicated fight, where black would have potential to attack white. But at some point, black's going to have to defend that side. At this point, I think black has to come back here. It does look a bit complicated, doesn't it?
It
So maybe
sure
it's,
does.
I'm not so sure about this one. But white would have liked to be playing this extension here. And otherwise, there's no reason why white should not just capture like this. So white's being a bit fancy here, but leaving the liberty open is probably not a good idea. He just liked this shape where he jumps out there, I guess.
Just a real quick update and give you a breather for a little sip of tea or water. So just to recap, we are in a 3-game championship now. New York has won board 1, so they just need one more game to clinch the title and the top prize. As I understand, Stephanie, who I believe is on board 3, yeah, definitely on board 3, has a minute left, and Brady has 4 minutes left. So they'll be going into overtime. I believe it's Canadian overtime, is what Steven told me.
So it's 20 slow moves for a certain amount of time.
I think it's like 25 and 10, if I'm 25 and 10,
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
So
That sounds like
that game will be going into overtime shortly. And just looking at the game here, it looks like it's in. I'm just looking at it very quickly. It looks like it's an end game, and it looks like it might be a close game. So we should.
Oh yes, when I looked at it, it did look fairly close.
So
So at this point,
yeah, this could be.
Yeah.
This could be critical.
it's a critical game. Okay. So at this point, white has something like 40 points in the lower left area, and probably something like 10 points in the upper left area here. So it's these 2 areas that we can call white's territory. Obviously, white's going to probably get something extra here. Black's got something like 15 points here, with potential territory. Like this could turn into 15 more points, or it could just completely disappear. So I don't really know about that. And black looks like black's going to get some territory on the side here at least. So that's going to be more than 15 points. And maybe the corner is still a maybe area. So black has something like 30 points plus a lot of potential, and I'll circle the areas with potential. So there's potential in these 2 areas, maybe some potential here. So 50 points against 30 points plus potential. I think that's a pretty good balance. It's black's turn here. Like I sort of like the way the players handled the whole opening.
Yeah.
And it seems a fairly closely balanced game.
It does.
So yeah, so black's continuing to try to attack. And I'm not sure about this. Like I'm at any point now, I would be looking at finishing the black territory in the upper right corner with a move like this would be a solid
maybe
way to
P17.
These P17, yeah. Or black could be a bit more adventurous with this. And that's going to give black something a bit more than 40 points in that area, probably. And so it would be giving black a slight lead in territory. And black's trying to be just a bit more efficient by playing a forcing move here, maybe. This, as it is, it's a forcing move. White can probably handle it with sentence. So white did that. And now white can, yeah, there we go.
He's threatening, just to let folks know, he's threatening to pull out the stone at Q8 with that.
Let's try out that variation. It looks dangerous for black too, but black can do stuff like this. And it's not going to be a net. And
nice shape, Michael.
Yeah. Let's see if white plays here. Now, the question is, can white make a net with this move? Looks like actually this could work for white. Black only has 2 extra liberties. So actually white could have captured it. But yeah, white was just being careful, I guess. So white played this exchange. And white does make a difference to white's eyes. So white has an eye in this area and a potential second eye here. If black were to go after the white group, black would probably have to start with a move on the second line here to take away the eye on the side. And locally, this exchange would be losing a lot of territory for black. So it's at the last moment, if black plays it, maybe white's not going to answer. But when white does answer here, this exchange on the second line is losing a lot of points for black. The idea is that if black doesn't play that, then at any point white can play here, and this would be an extra eye for white. So another eye there. Or if black is really desperate to kill the white group, black could play here, and this would potentially be a ko here, but a dangerous ko for black also. Black's going to lose a lot when black loses. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that it's relatively difficult for black to try to attack this white group after this. And so this move, although it does build the lower side, and it got rid of the lower, the direct cut here that had to do with a ladder. So it was a ladder breaking move for that cut. But it's not so important to me because it doesn't have any follow-up as an attack against the white group. I don't, that's why I sort of hesitate to say this was a good move. And I would have been playing something, as I was saying, I would have been playing in the upper right corner.
Yeah.
This is probably the mistake move. If I was going for a bit more territory, I might play this one. Sometimes your opponent can make you pay for this kind of move where black is trying to make a larger border. For instance, if white gets a stone around here, and maybe white can be doing stuff with this kind of thing, there is some potential for white to get some extra mileage out. So it's hard to say whether it's better for black to play like this or like this. Like this or like this. But I think this move is maybe not so urgent. And in the actual game, white now plays here. This is another way to move out with that white stone, although the popular way is to play a diagonal move on the second. It turned out to be the same variation. And now white plays here. Now this is the weakness. Like I told you that black got rid of the direct cut by playing a ladder break there on the right. It didn't really get rid of this move. So that's another issue that I have with that, the way that black played that. This is really annoying. Like black, after investing this move here, after investing one move to surround the lower side, black doesn't really want to allow white to connect underneath. So black plays here. That means white gets another forcing move here. And sort of putting pressure on that black group on the left. And also
so annoying.
Sort of looking sideways at the weakness here where white can actually bump against here and cut sometimes. So in some cases, we're going to see white bumping against here and cutting here, which is forcing towards the corner, and then escaping with that stone would cut off the black stones in the center. And so white has some things to aim at. The fact that the black group on the left is not 100%, and the fact that white has that attack potentially. So black played here once. It doesn't change the fact that white can bump against at this point, at some point later. So black has dealt with that, but it was, you can see the territory that black got out of playing that one move there. The actual territory that black got was not going to be, it's not going to be so big.
Wow.
So white was just making a potential squeeze there, and we're going to see it played out in the game. So I'll leave that. It seems to be going fairly well for white. Now I sort of doubt that move. But yeah, white did want to do something to protect his group there. So I guess, yeah, I'll say it's okay. But when white does get squeezed, so the squeeze I'm talking about is when white does stuff like this. I wasn't going to talk about this because we're going to see it in the game. And white starts filling liberties. So white's going to start filling liberties in all these places. And when white does that, this stone on the outside, it's not really in the ideal place. White would rather have it a bit further away. And so when we're talking about efficiency in the case where everything works well for white, I would rather have this stone somewhere around here. And the question is, what was he worried about? He was probably worried about something. And that squeeze that I'm talking about, it's actually more dangerous than you might think, because white does have a way of extending liberties. White can play here next. And if black pushes through, white's going to break into the corner. So this would be a bit painful for black. It means that black's going to answer on this side. And white has 3 liberties. So white's only losing by 2 moves. It means that if white had played this going back and forth here a bit, but if white had played this way and then later done this, then it only costs white 1 move, and then the rest of the moves are going to be forcing. So white's going to have a nice little territory here with a wall here, and white's going to be able to make this territory or an area that white controls.
Wow.
And when we look at this variation, it's pretty obvious that white wants to have the extra stone somewhere out here instead of right next to the wall. So that's why I was sort of surprised by that move. In actual play, you just have to calculate. I would assume he was worried about the connection there. So I would have played this move, but you have to calculate what happens when black tries to get in there and cut you off. My gut feeling is that this is not going to work for black. Just the fact that white has that potential squeeze is going to make it difficult.
Pretty elegant play by white, I think, right? I mean, it
On
really.
the whole, the game plan seems to be working well for white. Let's take another look at the territory. If we still, this lower left area, it's slightly less than 40 now, just because there's some bad Aji there on the side. I would sort of degrade it by that much. White's probably going to take it, deal with that right now. But white has something less than 20 points on the upper side. So that's somewhat less than 60 points with some points in the center to make it a good 60 points in all. So I'd say white has somewhere around 60. Somewhere around 20 for black in the lower right. Black has a bit more than 30 probably here. Somewhere around 30. So black has 50 there and some more here. I'd say white has a slight advantage in territory at this point. Oh, so white immediately played this. Did white? No, that's my variation, sorry. So here we are in the game variation now. Yeah, white has to deal with the weakness that white has on the right side. So white's playing fairly carefully here. Oh, yeah, white could have answered that move too. White could have answered here. I think it would have been perfectly reasonable. And black would have played here and probably, I don't know, probably just added a stone on this side, just to make the side territory. So this was black's plan. And this would be keeping the status quo for white. So there would be nothing wrong with playing this way. And it's 38 points, 38-point territory there. And so white's territory is not drastically being reduced either. So I think in this variation, white probably has a small advantage in territory, and it would be good enough for white to win the game. White would continue with something around here maybe. White probably has a small lead. But, you know, when your opponent is trying to play all the forcing moves, sometimes you want to avoid that and change the order. So this is something that potentially works for white. And the left side is an area where white already had a very strong position here. So there's no positional advantage for black breaking into it. It's just the territory difference. So now that white territory is looking more like 24 points. Just looking at this boundary, there's going to be one white stone played. There's going to be white stones at this point, and also white's going to be putting a stone in here. So that's 24 points. A minimum of 24 points there, and a few points on the left. So that adds up to being about 30 points. White's territory there on the side was decreased by about 10 points in the full exchange. Black got a Ponuki in the center of the board. And the payback was that white did take away black's territory on the left side. So this area was going to be a black territory of somewhere around 10 points, and it's gone. So if I was playing with white, I would have connected at this point, but it's probably not a decisive difference. So white plays the squeeze there and is making it really looks like white thinks he's winning.
Would you agree with that?
You know, to be honest, I'm not sure. This center area, which is not going to be much territory for either side, it's really hard to calculate exactly how much territory
This is
black's going to get.
this is one of these games, and we've talked about this before, where it just it just seems really hard to count, and B, it's one of these games where it keeps changing.
Right. Yeah. Well, like very subtle mistakes can change it. Like if you look at computer analysis, where it's giving a score for the likelihood of a win.
Yeah.
And with Katago, you also get the point score for how many points one side is winning.
Right.
And then when you get that, you get to see how it can be something like 90% for one side, and that side is only winning by 1.5 points or something. And like very subtle mistakes, like at this point of the game where the board is wide open, even top human players, world champions, can play moves that when the computer now it's a 1 point loss or something like that, or a fraction of a point, and it's going to change the score, the winning percentage score, or the likelihood of winning score is going to change pretty dramatically on a move that we're not even sure how it lost that 1 point or a fraction.
Right.
Computer goes through so many playbacks that we're quite often we're talking about 0.1 points or something like that, a difference like that, and it's moving with each move, it's moving back and forth. And so it's the score to predict the potential to win the game is pretty misleading and hard to follow at this. Where I find it more, I learn more from it early in the game.
Yeah.
When it's closer to what a human pro would be saying at the same.
And I think that's one of the interesting challenges that we're dealing with right now is we have these incredible tools, but like you're saying, I mean, you know, I've seen that where it says, you know, it's 90%, and it's, you know, it's a 1 point. That's not something that is useful. Certainly not to an amateur, and it's not clear to me that even to a professional, right? You're saying professionals, you know, so I'm not sure how useful those tools are.
You know, younger players who sort of grew up with AIs, like people in their teens, who were already using AIs as they became professional and developed their ideas about the game. I think they're pretty good at interpreting it into something that they sort of intuitively understand. And myself, I developed basically my set of values, or they were developed before AIs came to a certain degree. So it's a bit more difficult for me. There are some cases where I sort of get the feeling of how it's working. But it's just, I feel much more happy with Katago, which gives me the point scores. It gives me some kind of a base to go back to and see what that the percentage score means actually.
Right. So this just like a
so this is still at the point. Okay, the moves I have on the board right now are was a few minutes ago, I guess, when we got to this point.
Let me see if we can maybe what we can do is take a very quick break to get refresh our drinks, and Stephen can catch us up. Eva-Dee, can we do that? Take like a 3-minute break. Why don't we do that? We'll take a 3-minute break for us to refresh our drinks, and Stephen will catch us up. So folks, we're on board 2, and yes, no hot mics this time, Eva. I'm gonna step away from mine, but so yeah, we're on board 2, and my guess is this whole thing is coming to a climax pretty soon. So don't anybody go away. We will be right back. All right, folks, we are back, and things have gotten very, very exciting. Vancouver won on board 2, which means we now have a tied match with New York winning board 1, Vancouver winning board 2, which means it is all down to Stephanie Yin and Brady Zhang. Stephanie, of course, playing for New York City, and Brady playing for Vancouver. So Michael, I think you're just seeing this. Let's get a quick assessment. Folks are trying to figure out
Okay.
who's ahead. So what's
Well,
our
just as we started, I did see the opening, which looked fairly balanced. And as we were preparing to start here in the interval there, I did get to see the flow of the game, which was, on the whole, I think it was looking good for Stephanie, or for White. And at this stage, after doing a couple of hours of commentary, um, I don't really do a great calculation, but I think White seems to have a slight advantage here. And it's the end of the game. So we might as well watch them finish it, but I think White's going to win by a small margin.
And White, of course, Black's got to pay Comey, which can be, especially in the close.
Well, that's the whole point. Yeah.
Yeah, that can be.
And the game is it's over now.
I was gonna say, I don't think there's not really any points much left on the board, right? It's pretty much.
Yeah, I would say there's no game-changing moves to be played. There's basically moves that change the value of the territory by 1 or 2 points. And they're really easy to choose. So it's not a place where you'd expect the players to make any mistakes.
Just a technical question. There was that where White just played at T9.
Mm-hmm.
White could have started a co. I'm assuming there's just no point.
Oh yes, White could have started a co. If you count the co-threats, that's something that could actually happen. In fact, this looks like the type of game where White does have an advantage in co-threats. White could have actually done that. It sort of reinforces my idea that White seems to have an advantage. And
right.
So basically she's sort of saying that she's won. She's declaring victory, maybe.
Right. That was sort of my question.
Yeah. If I knew I was winning, I would probably avoid the co. But like if you count the co-threats, White does have a co-threat here. White, let's see, White has some co-threats here. Mm-hmm. 1 or 2 co-threats there. Looking at Black's co-threats, Black has a co-threat. Let's make boxes for the Black. There's a co-threat here that's bigger than the co. There's a co-threat here. There's a co-threat here. It could be a bit dangerous for White to actually. There's a few co-threats that Black can play. White's going to lose something like 5-6 points if White loses that co. So White needs to have some fairly convincing co-threats. So it probably would work, but if you are confident of the win, and especially in a game where there's time control like this, probably wise just to play this way.
And interestingly, in calculating it, starting the co is worth, it's got 3. If White wins it, it's 3 Blackstones, so that's 6.
And then there's these 2 points, which in this case, Black's going to connect at this point, right? It means that White's going to lose this point also. It's going to be an end game. The Atari is going to be an end game move that Black has the right to play, basically. So it's 2 points there for White, these 2 points. And the 3 Blackstones are 6 points. So it's an 8-point difference if we compare it to this diagram. So White would gain 8 points. It means that, well, for instance, moves like this would be much bigger, or moves like this would be much bigger than the co itself. Whereas if Black captures the co and then captures here and then captures here, this would be a direct threat against White's corner territory. And the corner territory, even if White answered at this point, White would end up answering this point to live, and it would just be 4 points in the corner, whereas this White territory is 8 points. So that's a 4-point difference with Black getting 3 points, and so it would be a 7-point gain for Black. So actually, starting the co there, it would potentially lose 7 points for White, with the potential if White wins the co to gain 8 points. So it's not really. It's not the kind of thing you get into if you're confident in winning the game without doing it.
Right.
Naturally, in a game with plenty of time, the players could calculate the co-threats. For instance, I've just found this co-threat here that White had. This is a co-threat that is sort of borderline. So this is about 8 points, and it would be about equal to the size of the co. So it would be pretty close to an even trade. So you have to, when you try to calculate co-threats like this, White gains 8 points but loses a tempo. It's probably the same end result, but it could go 1 point one way or the other. And at this late stage of the game, it's pretty difficult to calculate. So I
Right.
would probably not go for the ko here. And the last stages, actually, the game's, there's very little to comment on at this point in the game. They're just going to finish it, and I'm expecting white to win by a few.
Right. It's basically winning maybe a couple of points. I'm just doing a very quick count, but
I'm not gonna, well, forgive me for being vague, but it's just a few points.
yeah.
I
No,
don't really know.
that's my count too. I think it's just a few points
Mhm.
on the board plus yeah. So once this finishes, folks, we will go back and take just a very quick look at the opening. Very quick, just I think, and then we're going to I think we're going to take a very quick AI look, and then we're going to call it a night. So, but it's very, very exciting at this point because, as we mentioned at the top, New York swept all 3 games last year, and at this point, it's tied 1-1. Although, if Michael's count is correct, it should wind up with a 2-1 win for New York. But in any case, good for Vancouver for really giving New York a run for their money. A very strong performance. I'll be very interested to see what the beginning of this game actually looked like. And assuming that Stephanie pulls this out, that's a nice teamwork with Stephanie and Ryan.
Yeah. Yeah, so they finished the game, played all the important points.
And while they're just finishing up, just a quick question back to what's going on in Japan. Given the increased situation with COVID, are there any tournament games going on, especially with all the stuff going on with the Olympics in town, or is that on hold, or what's going on with?
There's still some restrictions on big events, but the games actually are continuing. I'm sort of happy that in some of the tournaments in which I was doing well, I've come to a place where I have to wait for the next draw, so the next stage of the tournament.
Right.
And so probably during the Olympics, I won't have to be going out very much, and I'll just probably stay away from Tokyo as much as possible and see what happens next. So because I'm sort of feeling uneasy until I get vaccinated.
That's a wise choice. Everybody wants you to be safe, Michael. I'm getting a final count, white by 8.5.
Oh, that's much more than I expected. The flow of the game did look good for white. Just when I quickly went through it as we prepared for this last segment, I saw the moves being played out. White did get a good attacking game where white was pushing black around and getting points in various parts of the board. So I think it was probably, we're going to see it was played well by white throughout.
Yeah, we'll take a very quick look at that, folks, and then we're going to do a very quick AI review. But first of all, I just want to congratulations to New York. They are the winners at 2-1. So Ryan and Stephanie on boards 1 and 3 coming through. But big shout out to Vancouver for, I think we can safely say, some very well played games and a very strong performance. And of course to Pandanet, which has been hosting the City League for a number of years. So appreciate their support very much as well. So well done all around. Congratulations. All right, let's see. Do you have the whole game now? Has Stephen gotten that?
Well, yeah, I can go back.
Good.
Do you want
Okay,
to look at
let's just take a very quick at the first moves, and then I think in the meantime, I think Stephen will be setting up board 1 for some AI analysis, if I'm not mistaken.
So here we see this 3-space extension again. I was talking about it earlier where I said that nowadays you often see people play on the 4th line if they play on that left side at all. So that's something it's a different move. But in general, we're seeing the players playing pretty much moves that AIs like on the whole. Yeah. So I'm not so sure about this Joseki in the lower left. But it's interesting. We saw this cut in the previous game, in game number 2. It's a test where white is in this game. Black played the Tory, but if black had captured the 1 stone, white would be playing here and looking for the extra forcing move. So basically, either this way, or if black connects to get the forcing move. So I think the attachment and the cut was well timed, and the idea here is something that is worth remembering. In the game, black played the Atari and connected here, and then took the 1 stone. And what white has accomplished is white has got a living shape here on the side, and these 3 stones, for these 3 black stones, the exchange there, it's a fairly light exchange for white. So white can afford to treat those stones lightly, and in some cases can sacrifice them. So this was probably about even. Black did get that big point on the upper side. The upper side, approaching that white corner is always a very big move, which is going to start to control the side. And it's also, in some cases, if white plays moves like this, it means that, as I was saying in game number 1, it's going to reduce the danger of white invading on the side, because if white does that, then black can just sacrifice. And it's an area that was open on the side already, so black can afford to sacrifice some of that territory. And it's not a big deal. So it sort of actually lessens the pressure there. In the game, white played a pincer. And so we get into this running fight where black's position on the left is a bit flimsy, but black does have a potential attack on the upper side. So white covered and jumped. Okay, so when white plays here, white is actually has to deal with the threatened move of this. This is black's threat here to cut the white stones off. And although white could live, it's going to be a bit painful. And then this group on the side would get into trouble next. So white has to do something about that. And so white's trying to do it in an active way, where if black answers here, then after this, white has a threat actually. So the threat there is to cut here and extend. And when white curls around, although black can win the race to capture, white can cut black off from this. So there's this added threat there where white might actually start with the cut here in some cases, where white has the potential to get some extra territory in the corner. So that's kind of an indirect way to establish the connection here while getting some extra profit towards the corner. And black countered that by ignoring it completely. And this was kind of an interesting trade where black lost the whole corner, but potentially has an attack here on that side. So white has some weak stones on the right also, but has to deal with that stone on that group on the upper side. And so it's pretty busy here. But the way black played it, it got really heated up. So maybe it was an opportunity at some point, maybe somewhere around here, for black to attack the right side first. This is something I would be thinking of doing. My gut feeling is that black would probably have started from this side, where black has a clear advantage. And the attack against white's group on the upper side could have been secondary. So this is a point where it's, after this, I was starting to see a position that looked pretty good for white. And that was a point where black could have taken a different course. So in this variation, white has already settled the group on the top and is sort of okay on the right side also. So it's not really succeeded for black. Black's attack has not succeeded, and that white is already alive here. Capturing these 2 black stones, white's going to have no trouble living here. And these stones extending out ahead of black, it means that those stones are pretty healthy also. So this is obviously a failure locally. So I'll go back and say once more that this was black's opportunity when the upper side was relatively cool, not so heated up, the fight there. It was an opportunity for black to play away and take an advantage. You can see how much trouble white is in locally on the right side. So this would be a more even fight.
I love that move. That's a wonderful move.
In the game, you see black is really busy trying to deal with that threat there, and the fact that black's group on the upper side is not completely settled. like to make this work, black would have to be able to capture these stones in the ladder or something. And this is actually a net. So locally it's working. Black probably had to do that, but I'm not so sure how black would be able to handle that group on the upper side. So that would be the issue that remains, whether black can survive here after white does something like this. I don't know, but to make this whole sequence a success for black would have to play this way. This is just fairly clearly it's working for white. So in the game, yeah, black did connect up here. But you can see there's an attack developing against black's group on the upper side, where white has secured a fairly good shape on the right, and black is still doing stuff to protect that group on the upper side. And black's trying to attack white's group also, but white has two eyes with it. And black pushed through, capturing these stones. So black got some territory out of it, about 15 points there, a bit more than 15 points in all. But black's group in the center of the board is not alive. Oh yeah, this is a point where black probably should be playing underneath, like this. The extra squeeze that white got here, it makes things safe for white. The fact that white got these eyes in the corner, and you can see white's just saying, this is already good. White's this is a big move as far as territory is concerned. If black had played in that area first, it would have had some connection with whether or not white has eyes here. So it's a really important move in that way. And it's kind of a declaration that white is saying that she has enough territory to win. She has something like 20 points in that local area in the upper left here. If we count the two stones here, I think that should be about 20 points. So yeah, if we look at the overall position, white has 10 points here, 30 points, close to 50 points in all. Black has less than 20 points here, 10 points here, 10 points here. And so black is close to 50 also, but maybe to be honest, I think it's a bit less than 50, and black has this weak group in the center. So I think this is a point where white has already very securely taken control of the game, where white's group on the right is stronger than black's group in the center. And white actually has some potential to increase the territory. So that's what white is doing here, taking it into the endgame. White seems to have a small lead. And I was surprised to see this change into did you say 8.5 points?
8.5, yeah.
I thought it was closer than that. Maybe black should have.
Well, that would have been 3 on the board, which is what I assumed.
My first guess is that black would like to have found a way to surround territory here, but you can see it's going to be sort of difficult with all these cutting points. So for instance, if something like this happens, it's not really succeeding. White has all those forcing moves to play. So that's what was making it sort of difficult for black to surround that territory, and why black allowed white to reduce it. So I guess it could have been here, or maybe I sort of miscalculated, because it is a fairly straightforward endgame.
Right. That's okay. I mean, it's something you're doing very fast. Actually, what we should do is let's take a very quick break so that Stephen and Eva-Dee can set up the AI, and we're also going to be joined by Ryan when we come back. Yeah. And so we'll take a look at that board one game with Ryan and with the AI. So, folks, we're coming into the last stretch here. So hang in with us for just a couple more minutes. We'll be right back with Ryan and with AI, and of course Michael Redmond. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thanks so much for joining us for our final segment of what has been a very dramatic evening of top-level Go play here at the U.S. Go Congress. Thanks again to Pandanet, which sponsors the City League, and this was the climax. We're very proud and pleased to welcome Ryan Lee. You just saw his game earlier tonight. Ryan, congratulations.
Thank you so much, Chris. It was very close to the last game.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we want to talk about this game, and I think Michael has some questions. Michael's going to use, of course, AI Sensei which is one of our Congress sponsors. So thanks to them for doing that. And I know a lot of people have been using AI Sensei. So let's take a look at what happened, Michael. Take it away.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. I remember having a lot of trouble with this last year, but I think I can probably handle it.
I'm sure you can.
Yeah, so let's see. This is a move where I was thinking that usually computer programs tend to suggest, if anything, on the left side, a high move. And it's not mentioned here. I have mistakes over 5 points. So I'm gonna make it down to something smaller just to see if it says anything about that move. Okay, black lost 0.7 points with that move.
All right, so you've proven yourself right.
Yeah, it probably it demonstrates that it doesn't really matter for human players. And sort of like I suspected, one of the potential moves was the 3-3 point, but surprisingly for myself, it wasn't showing a move on the fourth line, an extension on the fourth line. I was sort of expecting the 3-3 invasion in the upper left corner to be one of the favorite moves, but I was also sort of thinking that an extension on the side would be one of the other moves. So what's surprising me here is that I'm not seeing that even as one of the alternatives.
Okay,
So yeah, let's go back to like if you make it mistakes over 0 points, then just about all the moves are going to be. Let's make it back to 5 points.
Take it back to 5 points. I really want to.
I'll be playing with that later in the game also.
Okay, we want to get to that right hand corner.
Yeah. So the lower right corner, up to this point is probably pretty close to perfect. And when white plays the double honey here, this is one of the ways you can handle this. So it's either this one or sorry, the scrolling is a bit too fast for me. Yeah. So the other option that white had would be this move. Let's see. White to play the star point. Let's see if they let's move the mistakes again. If white 18 becomes a mistake. Oh yes. So with 18, white lost 0.3 points, and Katago apparently wants white to play like this. So this is the kind of thing you sometimes see with computer programs, and in actual play, sometimes it's sort of difficult to execute because it's not clear what white's going to do with that group on the right, and it's going to change throughout the game. Like sometimes white's going to play the ko, sometimes white's just going to sacrifice it, and sometimes white's going to run out into the center. And so this is the kind of diagram. I would say it's the kind of diagram that is relatively hard for human players to use when shown it by the computer. Coffee now. So let's ask Ryan, what did you think about your choices here? Did you think of the play at 1, the start point?
I considered it, but I think getting Gote, perhaps if move 3 played at 4 in this current variation, didn't look ideal. So and I didn't really consider just leaving a ko like that. As you said, it's very difficult to handle, and usually when I do that, it just ends up dying, or because I don't have enough ko threats to support that. So it's very difficult to handle. Yeah. I briefly thought about it, but I pretty quickly went with this double hane in the game.
Right. Yeah. I sort of agree with that. So for me, I was sort of surprised in not seeing this move. Originally, I had mistakes over 5 points here. I think that must be the default in this homepage. And this move was not showing as a mistake, but this is something that a local position that I had researched, and I sort of knew that this was a mistake. So I moved it down. I think it was only mistakes over 2 points when we got to having this. So this is, so what did you think of Black's move?
I thought that,
yeah.
Right. I thought that Black was trying to get territory and play a territory game. But I was very surprised that Black played the Atari at T2 after this move. So
You
I
mean
thought this
Atari
move
on the wrong side, yeah.
right. I thought this move was possible, but I didn't really like that variation. But also, I think AIs typically like to do some sort of attachments for white after Black plays. The Atari at S2, white connects, and then another
This
Atari
wouldn't
at
be a
S1.
variation. So you're talking about this move, which should have been played here. So that's another
Right.
2.6 points. Like it, I was sort of surprised to see that it was such a small mistake actually playing these two moves.
Yeah,
Okay, this is actually a variation that has been played by human players, where white is getting kind of a squeeze here.
I was planning on doing this, playing out this variation when Black made this S3 cut.
Wow, it's a lot, giving us a lot of moves here.
That almost looked like a human game, which might be a bit rare for so many moves.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, it gave us 30 moves there. And this whole sequence where white is squeezed is something you see a lot. And I think what you were saying is that white seems to have a lot of choices here, which include like an attachment at Q9 or stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. And so the way the computer did it here was actually a very straightforward way of making the sacrifice. And it sort of works. So yeah, I was sort of surprised that the mistake was relatively small. Like there's another 2-point mistake here where the computer is saying Black should push here. And I think the basic story is that living in the corner was just too painful. But Black ends up living anyway. Okay.
That's what I thought too, but it was actually difficult to handle. I actually thought about this for at least 10 minutes when Black made
When Black lived.
When Black made the T2 move. I was thinking very hard on whether or not to descend at S1 because it looked like it was an overplay, but it's also very complicated. So the variation I thought that Black would play O3 instead of the move 1 here, and I think that would be a very complicated variation. I was planning on pushing and cutting.
So this move. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, go back one, I suppose. This move, and you're gonna crawl.
I was thinking of crawling and cutting at right.
And then pushing through here.
Yeah.
Black would probably maybe just live now.
Yeah. Maybe.
Or could
now,
you push out immediately?
Yeah, now it looks like 5 is a bad exchange. So maybe push once and then cut. Is that possible? Then N4. This trade seems to be better than the squeeze for white. And then O5, perhaps?
Probably better than the game variation for Black, though.
Yes.
That's my feeling, yeah. On the game, yeah, it was like this. This is just looking so bad for Black when Black is dead. Okay, so now let's see. What was this? This was the first big mistake. And actually, this is the one I didn't talk about in the commentary. So Black's apparently should have jumped here. Yeah, just because the game was an easy squeeze for white. I think that variation where white squeezed was one where I would clearly be happy as well.
Yeah, I felt the same. The wedge at 6 is
yeah, something tells me that in my games it wouldn't happen this way. But yeah, so that's the cutover variation. It's the computer variation. It is the cutover variation. Okay. So this is cutover we're dealing with here. And in the game, yeah, this is just too easy for white with the squeeze. Oh, it's saying the black should have played here. Yeah, well, yeah, I can see that, but it's probably playable for white. I mean, it seems to be a good sequence for white. Let's move up to back to bigger mistakes to keep it relatively simple. Okay. I'm actually catching on how to use this system. So yeah, this was just so painful for black. I would have even just squeezed from the center at this. I would think it was good for white. Yes, I was really surprised. Yeah, I had a question here. What about surrounding the center with white's next move here? This move? It's not listed as a mistake. Let's see if it comes up. I reduce the amount. Mistakes over 1 point. Ah, it's a mistake that's over 1 point. Okay, so I was gonna play. I think it was here. Yeah, I was gonna play here.
At that point, I had maybe 20 minutes left. I played the move in the game as sort of like a strategic play because I knew black had to reduce and have a weak group, and I felt more comfortable with getting d8 because that puts some pressure on the left group. So it's kind of like cash in a way, but getting the moyo there, like there were some very complicated variation, which my opponent somehow found also in the game because of because of a slightly careless move on my part afterwards. But I was intentionally trying to get a smaller territory and get my opponent to reduce to, in a way, play a simpler game.
Certainly worked that way in the game. Yeah, but yeah, I would just the fact that if white can secure this territory, it would be a clear win. I would have played this. But yeah, your strategy definitely worked in the game. And look, they're calling. So you lost 2 points apparently with this. And black with this move, yeah, I'm not surprised to see that black sort of played here immediately. If black was going to play there anyway, it probably would have been better for black to play. And this is Katago's variation of that. Not my idea. Okay, yeah, it looks pretty complicated for black anyway. I got the feeling it seemed a bit unnatural for black to be playing the game move here and then pushing this. It seemed to be a strange sequence of.
Yeah, I was curious, Ryan, what you thought of that as well, because it kind of it seemed like black was trying to have it both ways.
I actually thought that my shape was very uncomfortable after black's push at m5. And I thought that my extend on top at the move before this one was a mistake. But maybe it was just.
Yeah, scrolling is a bit too active in the program. Oh yeah, sorry about that.
Oh well, Michael, you had a suggestion for a simpler move to kind of eliminate some of that AGA, I think, right?
Myself?
Yeah, a little bit later on to sort of simplify things.
I'm not sure what I said.
All right. Let's see what the sensei says. I mean,
but I think 9. Yeah, it was the fact that white got to play that move here. It probably was pretty important. Yeah. So yeah, it's saying that black sort of bumped against white.
I'm a little surprised at the points lead is so high right now. Like in the game, it felt good for white, but definitely didn't feel like 21 points right now.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's so difficult to realize the axle profit when you have thickness. It's so hard to calculate sometimes. I think that's what makes it more uncertain for human players than it is for the computer.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I know that I would feel good about white's position here, but I wouldn't be confident taking it in.
Is
So
that how
after
you?
this, like you're, according to the computer, you're already something like 15 points ahead. And later on, when you start making what the computer calls mistakes, you're going to be more like close to 30 points ahead. So it's a big lead for white.
It definitely
Yeah.
felt good because the lower side of the board, white was controlling, and black only has a very tiny territory. And the upper side of the board is clearly white spent 2 moves on the upper side of the board already. So I knew I was relatively comfortably ahead. So just trying to simplify the game.
Right. Yeah. You're pretty close on territory already. So I definitely agree. That looks like a win for white. This variation by Katago. So white, Katago wanted you to attack immediately with the capping move. So that's the idea that's shown here.
Is that something that?
You're just trying to keep the game like you're lead in territory and keeping the game calm here.
Ryan, was that immediate attack something you thought about, or because I know you were short on time, right?
I thought that I could just win by defending territory, and I tried to do that. But then black kept pressuring by like the move FB3 was definitely an overplay in a regular game.
Yeah, well, yeah, the computer is giving you a lot of points of the lead. So yeah, and it is a position where it looks pretty clear that white's winning. So I'd say, yeah, at this point the game is just wrapping up. So yeah, there were no points in the game where white seemed to be in trouble. Pretty decisive win, if you ask me.
Thank you. I felt the lower right was a big advantage. It just the Atari T2 seemed to give me a big advantage. But it's interesting that the AI doesn't think so. Like the AI thinks that move by move, black is giving away points.
Something like 2.5 points with each move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I think it says something interesting about sort of the emotional attachment that we bring. You know, I can tell you just from folks watching the comments. That was people definitely were feeling. Did not feel like that was a 1 or 2 point move. So a whole other thing there. The other thing too was that people were looking at that black group and just assuming that you were going to attack it really strongly and try and kill it because everybody can see that it's just sort of barely has one eye, and just with your very strong position there, and you can see very clearly with the AI Sensei that white is just in a really strong position. But I think, Michael, you were saying during the commentary that it's certainly something where if you sort of fall for the opponents, throwing a lot of dust and sort of over, because Michael showed a number of variations where, this could go a different way.
Yeah, I was very.
How white could potentially mess up with this kind of.
I was very careful with that in this game because I remember last year when we reviewed, also for the City League Finals, Mr. Redmond pointed out one point in my game where I had a clear lead, but I chose a variation that was complicated, which gave my opponent a chance, and the fight could have went either way. So I was a lot more careful in this game, I think, to not let that happen, and it seemed to have worked.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's what we were.
This was a kind of a textbook example of how to win this.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's really well done, Ryan. Just watching there, I thought I don't think Ryan's going to fall for any of that.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Yeah, great game. Very exciting too. And Stephanie had a really good game too.
Mhm.
She
Yeah, I
was
think she had a lead,
incredibly nervous.
No, I think she looked pretty solid. And but you know, again, kudos to Vancouver for really giving you guys a run for the gold there. They played very, very strong. Good job, everybody. All right. Well, congratulations again, Ryan, and congratulations to the entire New York team. You guys are sort of becoming the Yankees of Go here, I think. Very strong, very well done. So, and good to see that folks have been following. Folks are out playing Go in the clubs, which is nice to see. But be careful, okay? All right, so that's just a couple of credits. We want to again thank AI Sensei. That was great. Good work with the using that tool there, Michael. Thanks once again to Pandanet for sponsoring. Also to all of the teams who play all year long in the City League. Congratulations to everybody for being in there. It's very exciting for us at the end of the year. And then, of course, thanks to the whole broadcast team, especially to Stephen and Eva-Dee. And the whole team has been logging a lot of hours to bring you all kinds of amazing content this week. So I know that everybody really appreciates that, but I just want to give them all a big shout out for all that work. And apparently Stephen does it without caffeine, which I don't even know how that's possible. It must be some of that good Chinese tea or something. Michael, and as always, thanks for your amazing commentary. You know, we're like 4 hours in, and you could probably do another 2 hours, but Stephen told me
he gets lunch now. Yeah,
lunch. Yeah, you get lunch, and Stephen, I think, is going to take a nap. So, but I understand we will be back tomorrow. I think there's going to be 5 more hours of broadcast, so you know, people tune in for that. Get some rest tonight. But thanks again for watching. And keep playing Go and keep being careful out there, folks. Take care.